This is Steve Heitzer,
And this is Emily Vinos.
and you're listening to
Everyone needs a spotter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everyone Needs a Spotter, brought to you by the expert team here at RMS Fitness. We are happy to be here again at the end of another week, joined by the entire team. We are in full force, 100% attendance. Everybody gets a good mark today. We'll start at the top, working from right to left. Robert, fearless leader, how are you doing, sir?
I'm well, Steve.
Just well? How well are you?
Must he start with me?
Yes.
We'll circle back.
Thanks, Steve.
Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. It's Friday. It was a long week, but it was a good week overall. And so, yeah, nice to be here with you guys.
Yeah, it was a long week. You guys were out and about a lot. Some of the field team here out doing some install work this week, site work and things like that. Steven, I see you're a few additional grays as a result of the work this week. How you doing over there, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm still recovering. Had a couple installations this week and moving of large equipment from one room to another in a college. But it's Friday, and I got one extra gray hair in my beard.
He does. I'm not sure how he keeps count of them, but I'll take his word for it.
I'm telling you, that's not gray. That's full white.
Steven, the Great White Donadio is in the building. No, but it is great to be back with everybody again this week. I know we all had interesting different things going on this week. I was dealing a lot with pre-installation run-up. So for me, it's coming down to the wire here. We've got lots of places that are completing construction and trying to coordinate all the chess pieces on the board, so to speak, so that things arrive where they're supposed to, when they're supposed to. Has been interesting this week. I've been introduced to some new projects, so it's been exciting on my front. Robert, are you ready to talk yet? Are you warmed up yet, buddy?
Yeah, Steve, it's January. We're definitely busy, right? I mean, things are going, service installs, are going well. As Steven mentioned, the expanse of our team as far as, let me rephrase that. We don't have as many people in the building because of the sickness that's going around. So we don't necessarily like to gripe about that, but that has an impact. I hope everyone's feeling well out there. But the point is that here we are looking at the landscape. Fitness is full force, full steam ahead, and we're trying to keep up.
Yeah, we are trying to keep up, but not really, right? You know, there's a lot of changes going on in the industry, a lot of shake up, a lot of moving and shaking. RMS is looking to continue doing what we've been doing, right? We're trying to, continue to grow in the way that we have, slow but steady, offering quality support and service to our customers and things. So there's a lot of people out there, changing names, flipping around who they sell and what they work with and things. We're trying to minimize some of that turbulence over here where and when we can. So, that's kind of the name of the game here in 2024 is doing what we've been doing, but continuing to do it, more of it, and still maintaining that high level. So, Steven, how'd your projects go this week?
They went pretty good. Actually, no complaints because, I am thorough.
I was there. No, I was there.
No complaints because Robert was there.
I was there too.
You were, yeah. I'm thorough, though, and I vet all my work.
Few complaints about Emily being there.
I hope so.
Got spreadsheets from my customers and what goes where and where goes what. And
and who's on first?
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, everything went pretty smooth. I was able to still send out some proposals despite how busy it was, and just ironing up some things. But overall, a very good week.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that everybody was, out and about and being productive this week. I was out on the road a lot last week, and this week I was kind of glued to my seat playing catch up. And somehow I think I ended up with more items on my to-do list than I started with this week. So, probably going to still have to hang around a little bit this afternoon to catch up on that. Emily, I see your finger.
No, I was going to agree with you. It came to my mind how I felt last week people were still kind of just getting back into a work week after the holidays and a lot of days off. So it seemed pretty quiet last week, but this week definitely has picked up pace, and a lot of people started reaching out. So that's good. I like getting the emails coming in and the phone calls coming in.
Yeah, it's nice, towards the end of the year, you find yourself doing a lot of pursuing of business. It's just kind of becomes that way. You got to go out there and find people to talk to. And then all of a sudden the calendar flips over and it's like you go from trying to find a drink in the desert to drinking out of a fire hose. It really flips pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So, but we're blessed and grateful to be in that situation for sure. And, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was something that we experience a lot this time of year. People get their capital expenses approved and they start trying to undertake large projects at their facility. One of the larger, after I wipe my nose, one of the larger projects that we see people undertake is redoing the flooring in their fitness amenity. Usually it's being done as a result of, wear and tear or something old in there. So, people come to us and they ask us about updating or removing, the equipment. So the flooring in there so that they can enhance the space. So we will oftentimes, try to get involved in providing information to customers about that. But we wanted to talk about that subject because it is something that we find sometimes there are hidden curveballs that can come up during the flooring process that sometimes site teams, owners, operators may not be thinking about fully. And usually people are trying to find the most cost-effective and efficient way to get a high-quality product into their facility. And if you're not aware of certain things, you can end up having to play catch-up on the back end and really end up defeating the purpose of what you were trying to do there. So I thought it would be good to highlight some of those. Emily, you all had an opportunity recently to interact with a customer who, I'll let you tell the story, but there was a flooring element involved in it, and I'd like to hear kind of what happened.
Sure. We had really was a customer of Robert's, but I was able to go out with him. I set up the site visit. One of a customer that we've had for a long time, but she had recently taken over this other property. So she wanted to make some upgrades. We went in and we were able to, kind of come up with a plan for her. But at the time of the site visit, we brought up the flooring. And not that it was terrible, but it's not, it just, we knew that it could be better. The room would pop more if we had some fresh flooring put down. She said at that time that they weren't really interested and that they were just going to clean it up and just continue working with what they had. Okay, no problem. So we do an install and it was great, ran smooth. And I followed up with her afterwards just to see how, the residents were liking it, how what she thought of it. She said, it's great, looks awesome. I'm so happy, but I really wish we had gone ahead and done a new flooring. Can I get a quote now? And it's no problem, except just stinks in the sense that it is going to be more costly to do it after the fact rather than all in one job. While we've already had the equipment out, now we have to move the equipment again and get the flooring down. So that was the experience that we recently had.
Yeah, Robert, maybe just building upon that subject. Can you maybe just walk us through that a little bit, how that process goes? So if someone wants to do their flooring in the process of also replacing equipment, how would we go about that, and how does that benefit the customer versus the scenario that just unfolded for Emily and you?
Well, fortunately, I had
just to maybe explain to the listeners where the cost actually comes from and why it's more one way than the other.
Sure. Well, I'll give it to you because I had another site visit today because I walked into a fitness center that was carpeted, and the carpet was original to the room. And similar to the experience Emily just related, because it's original, wherever the existing machines were, it's been marked up. People have been using, rubberized weight plates or rubberized dumbbells. They drop them. That scores makes a mark on the floor. And then, of course, that doesn't look so well. And then after you put the new equipment in, it's totally exposed at that point. So why could it have been beneficial to do it early on? Well, generally we come in and we remove the old equipment. So at that point, the flooring is totally accessible. So whatever existing flooring is there, we can tear up without any necessity to move things around. There's where the cost comes in. High labor. If you have existing equipment in the room, you're trying to do a floor, generally you have to move it out, let the flooring guys do their thing, move the floor back. I don't know if we were going to get to this later, but the type of floor that we use is the 2x2 tile so that we can do a portion of the floor, if necessary, put the flooring down in some cases. But in the cases that we're speaking of where we're going to put new equipment in the facility, obviously taking the old stuff out is part of the cost of buying the new. Generally, it's all part of that purchase. And so with that said, again, no labor involved. Floor crew comes in, tears up the old floor, puts the new floor down, schedule the next day, put the new equipment in. So seamless, because there's nothing in the way of the flooring project because you've already got the equipment out. If you do it the other way, like Emily just mentioned, I had to take into account extra labor because now we have to move the equipment around in order to get to the floor. So in hindsight, I'm sure the customer's probably a little upset with herself, but we recommend it, and these are the reasons why.
Absolutely. And, sometimes it does, just shake out that way. We understand. Sometimes the numbers are what the numbers are. Sometimes you can only do what you can do. But, we try to articulate those concerns to people so that they can at least give themselves the best, fighting chance they can at having a successful endeavor there. In another example, sometimes you mentioned about having to move the equipment around within the room. That's another issue that sometimes people don't consider when they're undertaking a flooring. Now, we use the interlocking tile. Not all providers work with that. Some providers work with rolled tile and glued products, and that requires time for that product to cure or adhere to the floor before equipment can be put back on top of it. So some properties agree to that type of project without considering whether they have place to store the equipment. Because if it can't be left in the room, right, or it can't be all removed from one room, so then they end up having to pack things onto one side of the room, do half the floor, move things again, and then your project is stretched out over many, many days. Your gym's down for a long time. You're shuffling things back and forth. You're paying for a lot of travel and time on site and things. It's really, it can be problematic. So it's really good to think through all the facets of what that project is going to entail before saying yes or no or choosing a partner, and making sure that the partner that you choose is also considering all aspects of that. Stephen?
Yeah, just to add to some of the points that Robert had mentioned and some of the reasons why people steer away from carpet in fitness centers is because you have to consider the sweat factor as well. People laying on the floor, people sweating on the floor. And it also, too, is like people will bring animals, dogs. And sometimes I've seen it, there's like pee marks on the carpet. And then
it's true.
It's a permanent stain, and then have fun.
They're probably not supposed to, right?
Yeah.
You probably have a sign on your gym wall that says like, "Don't do stuff like that." But it happens,
and yet it happens. Yeah. So that's it's an advantage to, going to a rubberized flooring, and then on top of that too, if you go to the route with the 2x2 interlocking seamless floor look. The advantage with that as well, when it's a floating type of floor, is if you have a particular spot or a rubber portion, an area in the gym that got
floating
damaged.
Floating floor means not glued down.
Exactly.
For those that don't know the jargon.
And definitely go that route.
It's a replaceable part. It's easy. You don't have to gut an entire gym just to replace this one portion, and it will still have that seamless type of look, which is a better look. So, another point to, going that route. And also, when you think in terms of if the flooring is an afterthought, and then you have all this new equipment in the room, and then you decide to do the flooring at that point, what adds that extra cost as well is when you have new equipment in the room and let's say, for instance, this case, you had to take everything out because of the scenario of what it is. The crew has to be that much more careful with the equipment because it's brand new.
Yeah.
Whereas with the old equipment and it's being trashed, they don't have to be as careful with the equipment. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to be paying more in labor because everything has to be handled with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that, because that was another scenario that I ran into this week that kind of led me to thinking about this subject. I had a customer recently. We did a nice equipment installation for them at their facility. We updated a lot of their equipment. We had also talked to that customer about replacing their flooring in the budget this year. And at some point during that equation, they said, hey, we're going to go with a different vendor for the flooring. We found a different vendor for that. And I said, okay. Didn't think much more of it. Appreciated the opportunity to still sell the equipment, right? Well, the time comes for the flooring to be completed and the project to be done. And the installers come out and they say, whoa, we, didn't anticipate having to move the fitness equipment. They showed up to the room and thought all the equipment would be gone. Robert?
Just one of the, I think what you really want to emphasize here is just how heavy fitness equipment can be.
Yes.
So in their case, it's not a matter of just moving furniture like in a home. You go into a fitness center, you're talking about, equipment that can go anywhere from 300 pounds to 600-700 pounds, depending on the type of equipment that you're trying to move. You get a functional with 600 pounds worth of weight plus machine. It's just significant. So I can imagine the floor guys in this scenario were quite surprised.
But, to your point, equipment's large. It's not usually easy to grab and pick up and move around. It's not meant to be picked up and moved around, really. So we encountered that situation. So the customer then came back to us and asked me for our price to move the equipment, just, if we just moved the equipment. And unfortunately, I provided our number for that service. And now, because of how it all shook out, they weren't prepared for that level of investment, in labor anymore. So they almost decided that they weren't going to do the flooring at all. And they just had us bring in the new equipment and just said they were going to hold off on doing the floor. Ultimately, then they decided to do the floor. So after now, we have our new equipment in the gym. They decided to do the flooring project. They didn't go with us for the labor because they didn't plan for that up front. They hired a regular mover of some sort to come in. Well, the mover's damaged the new equipment. They broke the shrouds off of some of the new pieces. They ripped some of the cable harnesses out of the back of the machine. And even some of the existing equipment that was left in the room from the prior, inventory was damaged in the move. They had some broken cables and things on machines as a result of the move. And now their equipment is still down. The equipment's now moved around. The floor does look good. The floor got done. The floor project was great.
It does look really nice.
Yeah. But now they've had extended periods of downtime in there, and now they have some of their brand new pieces of equipment are broken, not working. And to make all of that worse, it's probably not going to be covered under their warranty because it's obviously a result of how it was moved or handled. So that's a really unfortunate situation. Like, we would have done anything we could within reason to help the customer to avoid that situation, right? But it was just a situation where the person ultimately making the decision, and it wasn't really the property manager, somebody else above them, was looking at numbers and not looking at the logistics of how it all is going to play out in the end. And, now they're still playing catch up, and they're going to be paying for equipment repairs now on top of all of that. That's just a big bummer. We're not happy with how that went, but it's something that could have been avoided, really. And, it was just an example that really came to mind with that. So, another thing that comes to mind sometimes with flooring issues, and this is another heartbreaker, is that we've talked about this on prior episodes, but a lot of times we get called out to brand new buildings that are like newly developed, newly constructed, and maybe one of you wants to take a stab at what they're usually asking us about shortly after they open, new construction. Something they probably didn't know about before they opened, but now they do, that people are living in the building and people are using the gym.
Are you talking about like dropping weights on the floor and deadlift stations?
Yeah,
and
noise, right? Like, it's the kind of thing that people don't think about really ahead of time, when they're building the gym. It's like it's a consideration, but if you're not there and you're not hearing the noise, I've been asked to come out to so many properties in the last few years that have these, how would you describe them, Stephen? They're not rubber. They're not like wood. They're almost like woven vinyl kind of.
Yeah, it's hard to describe the type. I know what you mean. It looks like it's like a tweed look.
That's exactly the flooring that I was talking about earlier.
It's everywhere. We're seeing it everywhere.
It's common. It looks good. It comes in like a million patterns and designs and colors, and designers love them. And when they're trying to impress an owner up front and they want to make the room look awesome, a lot of times they go with these vinyl floorings and things, and they put them throughout the gym, and it looks awesome. But then people move in, you start working out, and you start getting these complaints about noise and things. And then, what's the only way to solve a noise issue that's related to the flooring? You
have to have cushion or some sort, like the padding.
I feel like we've talked about this on a prior issue. Right?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all right.
No.
No, I'm just saying.
This is another brief thing that people don't think about, right? Because now you have this fancy floor that you purchased because it looks nice. And now the only way we can solve the problem you're having is
Just
by
to
covering
cover
it
it
up.
up, right. Yeah.
So, again, what we're trying to help people to avoid here is you set out into these projects with an objective of how you want it to turn out in the end. And the last thing we want is for you to spend all this money and then you're just left over with black rubber floor anyway, right? Just covering up something where you could have approached it differently from the outset. And you're impacting not only your function, but your design. Nobody's probably happy with that. Robert?
I'll go by either.
Robert.
So the point is, when I mentioned about being in another prior episode, and now we're talking about it again because it happens so often. And just this week, talking about the various clients that we've spoken to, because there's a reason why piano movers, they move just pianos. Fitness equipment companies like us move fitness equipment. Not every mover knows how to navigate a piece of equipment. So going back to your first client, not to digress here, but they didn't know how to take the piece of equipment apart. And so they started disconnecting all this wiring. And if this was a video podcast, we could show you some of that. So that's unfortunate. But going back to what you said, Steve, I think where developers kind of miss the point, and I'm sure you've had these conversations, is what looks good versus what's practical. Because light colors in a gym, very, very hard to keep clean. And, I don't know how much they're spending on these floors, but I can assure you that if the gym's used, that they're probably looking for a new floor in less than 5 years.
I would agree, especially
Right.
if these colored floors, the ones that aren't black, that aren't, dark grays and things like that. It brings to mind another one of the projects that I noted. And these are just things where we can help to solve these problems after the fact too, but it's not ideal and it doesn't always, then you're trying to find money to solve a problem that you could have avoided up front or budgeted for differently. Recently we did an install as well, and the gym turned out great. I mean, I loved the whole project, but the day of the install, I walked in and I noticed that the flooring was totally different than what I expected it to be. It was like really, really, really light tan rubber athletic flooring, and it looked great. They had like these navy blue colors in the rooms, like on the columns and the millwork and things and the tan carpet. It looks really great. And the problem is the customer hadn't planned any sort of like lifting platform or any sort of area mat for the dumbbell area or the free weights. So the team showed up to do the install, and all they could do was put things where they were supposed to. There was no real option for them to do it any other way. And right away, I pointed out to the customer, I said, people are going to do deadlifts with this barbell, and your floor is going to be looking rough and not very long at all. Same could be said for the dumbbells, and all that, people are going to be benching their 50s. I think they went up to 75s there, so they've got a high weight range. People are going to be working hard, dropping weights, and now they're trying to figure out solutions for that after the fact. And, again, these are just things where we try to take that consultative approach whenever we have a customer working on anything. And again, these are areas where just as much as we want the customer to avoid these problems, we also learn from them as well. And this is something that I'll be sure to follow up on in the future as well. Nothing's really I don't want to say it. You never lose or anything over an issue like that, but those are areas that you can apply to move forward and do better next time. Stephen?
Yeah, and basically agreeing with you on the fact that it's important to have that consultative approach because, we can bounce ideas off each other, bounce ideas off construction crew, designers, before everything's done because, you might have a project where the whole gym is this light color on the floor, and then we could raise these red flags, whereas the other people involved have no idea the after effect and the results that it could end up being. And so some of those suggestions it could be like, the owners and the property managers like the idea of having this cool light flooring incorporated. Well, that's fine, but in certain areas, maybe we can have a division, like maybe the cardio area, the strength area, and certain areas where, there's going to be dumbbell marks or deadlift marks or treadmill marks. Maybe those specific areas, you can have accent areas with rubber flooring or darker flooring, what have you. It's just the important thing is to have that conversation, have that consultative approach, so that when it comes to installation day, there's no issues and it's a smooth install.
Yep. And then you know what you're getting. At least you made that decision with all of the available information and things like that. So, probably don't want to belabor the point too much on this one. It's not a super meaty subject, but I did think it was important as these projects, a lot of people are going to be getting updated quotes for these kind of, projects this time of year as they look to take on these expensive, big renovations at their facility. So maybe just to recap, couple points that people can look out for. I know we talked about, obviously, choosing a vendor who is either A, including the cost of removing the equipment, from your gym in their bid, or at least remembering that you need to also shop for that in addition to the flooring so that you don't get caught off guard. That's an important reminder. I would also, we talked about picking the right materials, obviously, color and making sure that you put things in the proper places. It's not coming back to me. We talked about the moving and the storing of equipment, right? So, obviously, if you're going to need to plan any off-site storage for the equipment, or doing partial pieces of the room, at a time because you don't have a place to store the equipment, these are all things that you want to be thinking about and be mindful of so that you can set the right expectations for cost, let your residents know how long the gym is really going to be closed so that you're not dealing with unhappy people if the project takes longer than expected. And, C or 3, I can't remember if I was doing A's or B's or 1s or 2s, but, C3 is just making sure that the final result of your project is the vision that you set out to achieve and not just some lesser or diluted or watered down, result that we don't want you to experience. So I thought that was important. All things to say, call www.rmsfitness.com on your interweb phone and reach out to us here, and we'll happily make sure that you have the information you need to make a right decision there for your space. Emily, Lil Wipey, haven't said that yet today. Lil Wipey, anything else that you'd like to share with our fine audience about your week, this subject, or anything else fitness related?
Just, when we make a suggestion, it's not because we're trying to make more money. We're actually really trying to think of the big picture when we're working with our property manager colleagues. And so that's why we want to talk about this topic today, that we want to help you make good decisions, help you plan accordingly. I mean, you just made a huge investment in your new equipment, and it's understandable that there's a reservation to spend even more money on top of that. But if you're already making that kind of upgrade, why don't you go ahead and consider? And I feel like we'll be totally honest if we don't think that it's necessary, but just let's work together on that.
Yeah, because I didn't even really talk about it, but like the flip side of that would be also if you put new flooring in and then decide you need to do new equipment after that, well, now you've got people moving old equipment in and out and back and forth all over your new flooring. It's very hard to do that without like you maybe mentioned this. Did you mention this, Robert? Am I re-stealing your thunder?
No, it just again goes back to who knows what to do when you're moving that kind of equipment.
It's just another thing to think about, right? Like now you're going to have all this foot traffic and carts and equipment and stuff being moved back and forth on your new floor, just to put your old equipment back in. It's a little bit of a...
Sometimes broken equipment.
I've done that before, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I feel like, why are we even doing this floor? It's like the attention needs to be on the equipment. But yeah, I felt that before.
Robert, parting thoughts, comments, considerations? As Emily plucks a stray hair from your face. Oh, stray hair Decker in the building.
I almost fell out of the chair as she reached. I thought she was going to hit me, not do that. Let's see. Well, it's going to be a cold weekend.
Playoff football.
Means, yep. I hope everyone who roots for whoever.
Dolphins, Miami Dolphins.
Okay, I'm telling you right now,
feel
if
like
Miami
Steven should not.
if Miami goes to Arrowhead Stadium in 0 degrees and beats the Chiefs,
They deserve
I
the
will
Super Bowl
eat
at that
my
point.
Hat.
He did ask me the question.
I'm sorry, Robert, take it away.
So cold weather football, enjoy. I'm trying to think what I learned today being out in the field.
Stay in the
Site
office.
visits. No, site visits today reminded me of the importance of getting out and speaking to customers one-on-one. I met someone that what I did not realize is that in her company, there are more than one facility that works with us, but she just found out who we are. So I met her. We talked over the room. That's how we led to this conversation in some ways about carpet in the room. And I just felt that being in the facility, I was able to see several different scenarios. I saw one club, brand new, beautiful. Individuals taking on a maintenance contract. Excellent choice. I saw the other room and really, really needs to be updated. I feel bad because it's a corporate facility in which everyone that's in the building is a professional and they have this fitness center. And yet, for whatever reason, and maybe we'll do an episode on this, don't forget to walk into the room and notice, and we've covered this on a previous podcast, but I'm just reiterating it. Equipment just shows up in this room. There's a chin-up bar in the room that clearly was a Amazon purchase.
Can I ask why it's always a pull-up like chin-up bar? Why is it always one of
Yeah,
those?
it always is that for some odd reason.
She says to me, I don't understand the concern. I reached over. I just pulled on it, and here it comes on top of me. I was like, and she goes, oh. And I looked over, and they had a functional with the bars to do a pull-up.
Well, you know people can't do wide grip pull-ups for the most part.
So ending statement is, don't forget to walk your room on Monday. Make sure nothing came in, was donated from the weekend, because it'll create more headaches for you than you really need. But enjoy your weekend, people.
Beautiful, beautiful. Robert, man, I can't get your guys' names right.
Steven Donna Decker.
Staubert Bonadio.
The
Stephen,
Great White Donadio.
the Great White
Decker.
Chinadio.
Chinadio, yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing irks me more than having a full...
He just went back into what irks him in the
Yeah,
conclusion.
seriously. It's like...
Man, let's end it on some irkage.
The one thing I hate most is curveballs during like a big installation day. It's one thing that I like to try to avoid to the best of my abilities, and that's why I try to have those conversations as much as I can, have the consultations as much as I can, so that the property managers, the corporate facilities, even the residential customers as well, they know exactly what they're going to get, and the end result, they're going to be happy, and it's going to be a long-lasting result that, the return on investment will definitely pay out for sure. So with that being said, and, cold weekend for sure, Saturday, we'll, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins.
Good old.
But yeah, I'll if they win, I'm sure I'll have a really good weekend.
Yeah, me too, because then we get to beat them again when we play them here in Baltimore. Go Ravens.
I have to say this. I just keep looking at Steven, and now he said, oh, great white sharkadillo or whatever. I'm thinking of Gandalf the White. All right, I'm a nerd.
Oh, wow.
You heard it first here, folks. Coming to you live from the Shire. This has been RMS Fitness, bringing you Everyone Needs a Spotter. I am Steve with Steven, Emily, and Robert. We are happy to be here with you again. We hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Take it easy.
See ya.